Do you have it just come in like once a week or something?
I have just the job board notifications on.
Ah. Session 544 HU.
Yes, I'm looking at these.
You do not have that much time.
Oh, it's fifth.
Some
I need help. I need help for Laurel.
Yeah, if we're gonna
Fifth one.
transport it. Proto for
Oh, what month being paid do you have? So you can upload your abstract or your abstract.
or to
It'll
solve.
give you this.
Yeah, it's totally about this.
Yeah. Still kind of overwhelming. Yeah. It's like again, like 4 or 5 I've been like.
AGU is massive.
Yeah.
Are you going this year?
I don't know.
And I guess I could. It was fun once. For me, it was like, oh, go once, check it out, and maybe not go again. It's just so big.
Yeah.
I think it's.
But it was fun.
I've attended virtually and I do want to attend in person.
Yeah, it's definitely better to go in person. Sure. They even have that like whole exhibit hall area where they have a bunch of like companies and things like showing off new technology. That I found that to be really fun.
Which I think is really cool.
I think this for lab
edition.
You guys have a bunch of packages to pick up.
Hmm?
You guys have a bunch of packages to pick
Oh
up.
yeah, I meant to post that to the lab chat because a lot of stuff has been Mike's where a bunch of stuff. Unique,
See,
but eco charm.
actually distinguished team.
Let's take us.
So I meant to post that.
It might be, you might enjoy looking in Holden's handbook, because it has a description.
Does everybody on Zoom still have the camera view of us? The speakers should be on the front of the room now.
Yes.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, we'll get started here. My name is Paul. Thank you all for joining us. I'm a PhD student here at the University of Idaho studying soil science. I'm one of the coaches of the University of Idaho soil judging team. I'm joined today, I'm very excited to be joined today by Holden Mrizek, a recent graduate from Virginia Tech and one of our Team USA soil judgers, and is also the first place international soil judging champion of the world, recently crowned. We are here today to just talk a little bit about our experience at the International Soil Judging Contest earlier this summer. It was in China. Before we get too much into that, I know the invitation got sent out to the whole College of Ag here at the U of I. So to start off with a brief introduction to what soil judging is in the first place. Soil judging is not really commonly known outside of the agricultural college audience, even sometimes within the College of Agriculture. Soil judging is not really something that it's something that we do to the soil as participants. We are the judges. We're not bringing soil to be judged. We're not going out to find soil to judge. We're not comparing soil from Idaho to other places and judging them in competition with each other. We are the evaluators. The students on the team are the judges. And this is a picture of soil judging in action. Members of the University of Idaho team describing, they're interpreting this soil pit at a designated location. This was from our regional contest last fall in Grand Junction, Colorado. It was in a vineyard, I think this one was, where the contest hosts, the organizers of the contest, prepare these locations for us. Imagine like a trench or a hole, maybe 5 feet deep. This one's a little deeper than that. The students on the soil judging team are responsible to assess the soil texture, color, structure, a lot more of these like physical soil morphological properties. They also interpret the landscape around them, what kind of landform, what kind of position on the hill or on the slope is this site, is also the geological origin of this soil, what the parent material, how the soil got here, how it all formed, what this means for how water is going to run off the surface or be stored within the profile and potentially erode at the site. Students give the soil a taxonomic classification according to our system of describing and classifying soils. And then also some practical interpretations are thrown in there to build a house with a basement, Could you have a septic tank, drain field here? Could you use this soil as like a road grade, road building suitability there? And then we're always excited, every different contest we go to, usually one a semester, there might be a special land use that we interpret according to that contest region. So in Grand Junction, Colorado here, we were learning about peach suitability, what makes a good soil for growing peaches, because that's important to their region there. We've had corn growing suitability in Iowa contest. We had to do potato growing suitability in Wisconsin, ironically enough. So a little more of the practical interpretations for what can actually happen with this soil, what it can be used for. And all this happens, the students are on their own to do this individually or maybe in a group. Everyone works together on one of these descriptions for the group judging component of the contest. But they get 1 hour to do this, to show up at the pit. And it's even more regulated within that, where not everybody has a whole entire hour to be examining the soil profile, get rotated in and out according to a specific timing schedule, but 1 hour total to fill out your soil description sheet. Soil judging at the University of Idaho here with our team. We operate as a club. We travel usually once a semester. In the fall, we have a regional contest, which we've had a tremendous run recently for these past 4 years, 4-time consecutive Northwest regional champs. And our success continued at the national level all the way up to first place. We were national champions at the 2025 national contest, which happened in Wisconsin. So regional contest in the fall, national contest in the spring. Every 4 national contests, so once every 4 years, there's this international soil judging contest. So that was something we were really excited for, building up to this year. In 2026, we knew this would be the international contest year. It happens as part of the World Congress of Soil Science. It's a bigger, like, scientific conference. There are lots of presentations and professional development tours and events. And this World Congress of Soil Science has been happening every 4 years, approximately, dating back to 1927 was the first one. So the international soil judging hasn't been around quite that long. In 2014 was the first time an international soil judging contest for students was incorporated as part of the World Congress of Soil Science. But this year, we had 14 different countries represented at the International Soil Judging Contest with 18 total teams. A team for the soil judging at the international contest is just a group of 4 students. So the US and 3 other countries as well sent 2 teams of 4 students technically. So we had 8 total students on Team USA, but a wide range all across the world. US and Mexico, Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, Germany, Poland, and Russia all had teams from Europe. And then it was also South Africa, South Korea, China, the host country with 2 teams, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand were the national lineups there for the countries that were actually participating in the World Soil Judging Contest. To be on Team USA, how we arrived at a group of the best soil judges in the nation, including Holden here. Our selection process really happened at the 2026 US National Contest. It was just in late March this spring. North Carolina State University hosted in Raleigh. And the top 8 individuals at the national contest received the first invitations to the international contest. So when we were celebrating in 2025 having won the national contest and talking about, oh, next year is the international year, we could qualify to go to China. It wouldn't necessarily be the school that wins first place, sends their whole team. That's not really how it works. Instead, it's like an all-star lineup based on the individual rankings. So the top 5 individuals here, starting with number 1, Tegan Macy from our team, was really exciting, quite a thrill that we had. That from the U of I, we had the first place individual judger. Unfortunately, Tegan had conflicting plans with the international contest this summer, had to be the maid of honor at a wedding, no less. So Tegan, unfortunately, made the hard decision to decline her invitation to Team USA, as well as 5th place, Jose Villanos from Kentucky, also ended up declining his invitation. So then that meant 9th and 10th place got the opportunity to judge in China, and they took it. So those were the only 2 declined invitations. The invitation stopped at number 10, which was Callie Goodwin from Tennessee. So I was really surprised that there were only 2 students who couldn't really come on this international trip because this is late March, it's towards the end of the semester already, and students already have their post-graduation plans lined up. Maybe they're starting a job or starting a summer internship, and needed a passport already. We had barely enough time to get visas to go to China in the first place. So the fact that 8 out of these 10 students were able to clear their calendars and go through the process of even traveling to China was pretty impressive for me. Coaches, on the other hand, was not such a smooth invitation process. Coaching invitations were based on the overall rankings of the team. To accompany these 8 judges, the selection process was to identify 4 coaches. Once again, starting at the top of the individual team rankings and extending down as invitations were declined. So first place was Virginia Tech team overall. The Virginia Tech's coach, Dr. John Galbraith, was not going to be a Team USA coach for the first time ever, I think. John Galbraith had been the Team USA coach at each of the past international contests, but he was not going to be coaching this year because he was a contest coordinator for organizing the soil judging contest in China. So he was recused from actually coaching Team USA. And then working our way down the list, we had a few more declined invitations all the way until I got the invitation. U of I was 5th place overall in North Carolina, and then Damon Lemaster and Gordon Reese were the next 2 to accept after me. So with Joey Meinerth, one of the co-coaches at University of Missouri, we had coaches from Missouri, Idaho, West Virginia, and Cal Poly. Gordon Reese was actually the only professor involved in our operation this year, but we represented a wide range of career levels, experience levels, and ended up being a pretty good complement, I think, for the whole experience. So once the individuals and the coaches were selected, we really only had about 6 weeks. It was mid-April. We had until the end of May to go through the visa process, get our travel logistics organized, and then also try to figure out what it means to be international soil judgers and what we could do to practice as this widespread group. What could we really do to prepare ourselves ahead of time? So we did a Zoom meeting for an hour a week, 6 times, doing some group work, some presentation work to try to figure out what we could do to best get ready, and also just think about some of these differences between what we know in soil judging and what we're expecting for this international contest. So it is just soil. Soil judging it looks the same in one sense, where they've got the trenches prepared for us and students go evaluate the soil, and we've got the control section here of the profile that's supposed to remain undisturbed for all the participants. And you look and you describe your horizons there, but you actually dig in and collect your soil samples to work with outside of that. One of the big differences we were anticipating, though, is at this international contest, there would be graduate students participating as judges. In the US, we standardize it to only be an undergraduate competition. And then students who really like soil judging as undergrads and go on to grad school and want to stay involved, like me, end up as coaches for the teams. But here at the international contest, grad students would be participating in the contest. We also knew there would probably be a wide range of experience levels, and that was indeed the case with some teams. There are some students who were really only judging soil for the first time after getting there. In the US, we're really fortunate to have the soil judging institution and like the infrastructure for it that we do, because it dates back to the 1960s, and most of our students were upperclassmen. They'd been to their share of regional and national contests before, and we knew exactly what to do, or we had this experience of soil judging before. And other teams, maybe not so much. It's definitely growing, though. There's a lot of other countries that are starting to have these national soil judging contests, and getting this experience of hands-on describing soils in a competition format like this. But because there were such a wide range of the experience levels, a lot of the practice days especially were a lot more geared towards teaching rather than like individual team preparation. So when we show up to a soil judging contest in the US, we're used to just having ourselves to rely on our own knowledge and our own time at these soil pits. But with all these other teams there, it was a lot more organized with contest officials there, describers of these soil pits to write the answer key. They would be there to help everybody and kind of do a little more teaching rather than just every team for themselves figure out what you can. And probably the most anticipated difference for us at least were the differences in the soil classification that that the students were responsible for. So maybe as a result of participating in this conference, we learned for the first time that there's more than one way to classify a soil, and the way that in the US we use the soil taxonomy system that we know and love, describing soils as mollisols and alphasols and ultisols, andisols. That's really the US system of describing soils, and you go elsewhere in the world and there are plenty of other countries that use soil taxonomy. It's designed to be used around the world, but there's also this whole other language of soil description called the World Reference Base. And when I'm teaching students about soil taxonomy, I kind of preview it as it's like learning a language, and that's the metaphor holds true here because a nonsense word like aquic haploidalph, if you don't really speak the soil taxonomy language, sounds like just gibberish. But as soon as you get some experience in these soil pits, you learn that, okay, this means it's an alphasol, it's in the Udic climate, and it's the haploic group, so it's a good representation. There's not a more notable feature of it. Aquic haploidalph describes this soil pit right here, but in the World Reference Base system, we call that a stagnic lufasol. And if you don't have any familiarity with WRB, or if you spent your whole life describing soil taxonomy, stagnic lufasol sounds like nonsense gibberish all over again. So learning this WRB classification system was definitely one of the challenges for us. So that is not only referring to the soil name description, but also the horizon descriptions that we put on each one of the layers. It's a whole different system. Same alphabet, or maybe not even the same alphabet sometimes. Not even the same alphabet sometimes. But all the students in this international competition had to use both of these systems. Some teams were like us, they had more familiarity with soil taxonomy. Other teams were a lot more versed in the WRB description system, and they had to learn soil taxonomy for the first time. But then there was another group of teams like South Africa, I think Australia, that don't use either of these systems. They have their own South African soil classification system and Australian system of soil description. So they were learning soil taxonomy and WRB for the first time, which made it a little bit more of a challenge for them, I think. The contest itself, it was right at the start of June in the first week in Nanjing in China. Nanjing's not really on the coast, but also it's not really at the way far inland of China. It's near Shanghai, which is where most of us flew in and out of. The train ride from Shanghai to Nanjing was about an hour and a half. Nanjing is a pretty prominent agricultural academic. It's the south capital of China, and in China's history, Nanjing itself means south capital the way that Beijing means north capital up there. We learned that while we were there, but 9 million people there. Just pretty amazing, the sheer just the size, like the size of these high-rise apartment buildings that just spread out. They go on, and riding the train, you're pretty far out of Shanghai, the major city. It makes sense that a lot of people live in Shanghai, but the farther out you get from Shanghai, the more you're expecting to get into the countryside. But no, there's these still like whole neighborhoods of giant high-rise 30-story apartment buildings, even what seems like it should be the middle of nowhere. So that was one of the main takeaways I had, was just the scale, I think, of being in China. So that's the location that we were at. The event started off, we were hosted at the Institute of Soil Science in the Chinese Academy of Sciences, a really nice, beautiful, less than 5 years old, like whole research campus for like the headquarters of soil science research in the country of China. And they had this wonderful campus, cafeteria, lecture hall, for us to set up in all these. There was about 100 total people participating in the contest, where we started off with some presentations, some lectures, some good previews of some of the context of what we were getting into with international soil judging, and then a little bit more of the teaching for some of these less experienced teams. But eventually we got outside. Before we went outside, we were also treated to a tour of the Soil Museum of China, which was part of the campus there, with a pretty impressive collection of soil monoliths, soil informational displays. The whole entire museum hadn't even been finished yet. They were still building some of the exhibits, I think, but had just enough of it open for a preview for the World Congress meeting. So it was pretty impressive to see the soil, the diversity across China. They had the whole country represented pretty much. Couldn't do a whole lot of reading about the soil profiles because most of it was in Chinese, but still, I think some of these horizons and some of the soil kind of speaks a language all of its own. So a lot of our participants and the team members were really blown away with it. I'm pretty spoiled personally because of the wonderful collection we have right upstairs here at the U of I, but still, it's a tremendous opportunity to come see these soil monoliths and the whole museum setup they've got for it. So that was another big highlight. But eventually, we did make it outside for some soil pit practice descriptions. And this is I've got a series here of some of those practice pits they had for us. This was one of the first ones that we saw. It was a pretty flat, low-lying area. This was a floodplain landform of the Yangtze River. That brought in just a little bit of sand. I mean, we got into the sandy clay loam. I think maybe this was a sandy loam in this pit specifically, but then that was pretty much it. All the other soils were very silty, smooth, textured. Loess was the dominant paramaterial. This was on a wheat field. This pit was on they called it a degraded rice paddy, I think. In the wet season, this would get flooded and grown for rice. And then in the dry season, kind of converted into a dry field, upland crops. This was I think sugarcane had been grown in this one, but maybe it missed one of those flooding cycles, or they'd been repeating sugarcane on it, not really flooding it for rice paddy growth. So it kind of started to degrade. The main characteristic of these rice paddy soils is a compacted layer kind of here at the surface that we had to get some good practice describing and seeing. We read about the definition of this, the hydrigric layer, and then underneath is the hydrigric, and then anthraquic. Yes. So this was our first chance to see one of those, really. But influence of groundwater here is a really nice looking water table. Effective saturation and wetness on the soil profile, which was a big point of emphasis on the scorecard. So for our in-person audience, we've got copies of the soil description sheet that the students had to fill out, or at least the answer key version of it. So you can imagine the table, kind of the cells being blank, and then the students are responsible to write their own assessments in there, and then those are the correct answers that they got matched to. So there's a pretty thick section of the oxomorphic and the reductomorphic features that they're known as in the WRB system. So that was a big point for us to gain experience and practice describing. This was one of the more upland pits, actually, also kind of near an agricultural terrace where a lot of these were, but kind of on the uphill side out of it. They said it was just about the closest profile they could get to an undisturbed soil in this region of China, just because of such a long land use history. Like a lot of the terraces and these paddy soils have been cultivated dating back thousands of years. So to find some of these relatively undisturbed, not actively being farmed or really kind of moved around or transported soils was a little bit rare. So this was one of the Loss profiles, not a tremendous difference in the colors of it or the horizonation really. So that I think only increased the difficulty for the judges to figure out where these horizon boundaries are in the first place. Still, nothing was harder in my opinion than doing both of those two systems. So here's an example of what the horizon names we would put on the soil profile here. The left side shows the world reference-based system, horizon descriptions according to the WRB, and the right side is the soil taxonomy, or the more familiar US system. So some things are a little easier to get used to, where we use the caret, like the exponent sign, to describe human transported materials. The WRB system uses the tau symbol, so we get a little more creative with the Greek letters and symbols in the WRB system. So that's kind of a one-to-one change, but even the meaning of these letters is different. Where a lowercase g horizon, we would describe as like a saturated, reduced. The iron is totally it's been reduced and depleted from the horizon. So we would expect something that's really wet, evidence of prolonged moisture. But the G in world reference-based system just means it has stagnant properties. So it shows some of these reductomorphic features or redox concentrations or depletions, but the water is specifically coming from the surface, like it's a top-down saturation effect rather than the bottom-up. This profile here for practice was on a fallow anthropogenic terrace, so not actively being cultivated, but it had still been kind of leveled out by human influence. So this whole top half or more of the profile where the caret symbol is, that was probably soil moved from pretty close by, but slightly uphill to level it all out. So starting at this little more red color down here, you can kind of tell here, that's where the more natural, untransported soil starts. And it's up to the students to figure all that out and then describe it with the correct symbols. And then later on in the profile, be able to check the right boxes for, this is a transported soil, it's on an anthropogenic terrace. The parent material is locally transported. One of many challenges that came with this international contest description. And then this is one more example. This was in another terrace soil pit, another kind of wet with saturation influence. You can see a little water pooling at the bottom in a perennial crop here of a green tea field. So in addition to the rice paddies and the wheat fields and the sugarcane, we got to see some green tea under production here on a terrace. We had 2 or 3 practice days where we got out to do these practice soil pit descriptions. Then it was time for the contest. So that's a little more similar to maybe a regional contest rather than the national contest, with 4 full practice days where we describe, I don't know, 15 or 16 soil pits as preparation. But our team had enough of the practice and enough calibrating, and they were ready to go for the competition, which functioned pretty similarly to the way that a US national contest works, where there were 4 soil pits. We only did 2 as individual judging and 2 as group judging. So this was one of our teams of 4 students, the one Holden and I were part of. We call them USA Team Stars and Team Stripes, because you participate as a group of 4. All of our lead up participation or practice was all 8 students and 4 coaches together. Only here once we got to the contest when they split us off into the 2 separate USA teams. But this was Team Stripes here doing a group judging pit at the contest location, and then the other team was Team Stars. They were nearby doing individual judging when I got to go around and take pictures for them. But 4 soil pits, coaches were sequestered away doing all the grading, tabulating the scores. By the time that finished, it was already evening, and we got to sit down back in the Nanjing area for a pretty traditional Chinese banquet dinner. Up until this point, we were having a lot of hotel catering food, so I was very much looking forward to the food part of the experience of going to China. But for the first week or so while we were doing the soil judging contest, experience wasn't really living up to the hype, unfortunately. We did stay, one of the cool logistical points of the contest was all of the participants in the International Soil Judging Contest were staying at the same hotel, and we had the whole hotel booked. So the only people staying in the building there were part of the contest, and dinner was provided every night, but it was a little more of the hotel catering, Chinese and also foods from around the world, catering for an international audience there. But this was the Chinese banquet dinner served to us. The food just kept coming out, kept coming on these plates that they would wait staff would put on the middle of the table on like the lazy Susan, and you spin it around. Holden was our rotator engine for it. You with your chopsticks, you take what you want, and cultural experience right there. But that was also the evening of the awards announcement. For the results at least, and this was the announcement of all top 20 individuals up on stage. We got 7 of our 8 soil judges into that international top 20, including 6 in the top 10 individuals. So it was a pretty strong showing from Team Stars and Team Stripes there. Group judging surprisingly went to perhaps not surprisingly, but Germany was really good. They had the top group judging score with everybody putting their heads together on one description. But when you add up overall the individuals on each team plus their group judging score, USA took first and second place, which was more of a relief to me than a true celebration, because in the relatively short history of international soil judging, this is only the 5th true contest. The USA has gotten first place every time, and in the years where they send 2 teams like this, they get first and second place. So we're waiting for the day that another country builds up enough momentum to maybe topple one of those 2 spots. But it might be happening soon with the way that international soil judging has grown, and the same excitement and like passion for soil description and competition that the US brings to the national contest. I mean, this is the only one that I've been a part of, but it was really fun to get to know these other students and to bond over this shared really strong interest for judging and interpreting and appreciating soils. So these were the 2 teams, Stars and Team Stripes. The other, let's see, Russia was a really strong showing. This was Russia's A team, the Krotovinas, they called themselves, a Russian influenced soil term. That was it. That was the contest part of it. The next day, that was just the announcement of the results. We also had a medal trophy presentation ceremony. So we call it the Soil Judging Olympics, because it happens every 4 years on the international stage. Well, we've got the medals to show for it now too. Medals and trophy presentation. That happened as part of the World Congress opening reception. And then it was, we kind of switched gears back into conference mode. So 23rd World Congress of Soil Science, it felt pretty similar to what I know, at least as the national annual meeting for the Soil Science Society of America, Crop Science Society of America, Agronomy Society of America. It was about the same size, almost 4,000 participants, people attending this conference, except it was only dedicated to soil science. So all kinds of presentations. There were also tours. I went on one of these tours to an agricultural experiment station in the Nanjing area. This was one of the highlights too. At the one of the welcome entrances, a huge column, 2 meters at least tall, of 1 square meter and then 2 meters deep excavation of soil that they had in place for everybody to admire and get photos with. But it was very much a professional, research presentations, professional development, all these tours, presenters from around the world, lots of participation from China and Russia, which probably wouldn't have been the case if any other country except for China was hosting, to grant visas to the Russian delegates. But they're pretty prominent for soil science research, and they've got really the origin of soil science as a field traces back to Russia. So it was great to have them involved just for their own professional development and communication of their research and the work that they're doing. And all the presentations were in English too, was pretty remarkable. This international audience of a Chinese presenter to a room full of Chinese attenders and me standing in the back of the room maybe, and all the presentations were English was pretty remarkable. We did our best. We did get around to do some sightseeing while we were all the way over there in China. One day we took a cable car up to the top of the mountain in Nanjing to admire the view. This wasn't a particularly bad air quality day. It was just really hazy pretty much every day we were there. And you know, a 360-degree panoramic view, and all you could see was the city and the sprawl and the development, huge buildings every direction you look, huge apartment complexes, again, just as far as you could possibly see, and pretty beautiful. There were more of these tourist destinations too. This was the Confucius Temple, which we kind of figured out was a tourist trap style destination, but for Chinese national tourists. Still very little English among all the souvenir shops and restaurants like waitstaff, but still all part of the travel experience while we were there. And then traveled back to Shanghai then at the end of our trip together, and then we were back home. It was 1 week for the soil dredging contest, 1 week for the World Congress meeting. And then that was it. We got to wait 4 more years until 2030, when Toronto will be the host for the next World Congress and International Soil Dredging Contest. Not quite as far away, probably over in Ontario. They'll host the soil dredging contest. But we have both been a part of some podcast interviews about this experience since getting back. My podcast interview on the Lowdown Underground podcast was published on June 22nd, and then Holden was interviewed along with some of the contest organizers, including Liz online, about making the whole experience happen. That is going to be posted to the Field Lab Earth podcast by the Tri-Societies themselves, I think pretty soon. I'm predicting it'll be the July Connections episode, which is usually posted right at the end of the month. So these are the QR codes to the episode links. If you want to check out the link to my episode and then the link to the whole podcast. You have to look for July 2026 to hear the perspective from organizers and the individual champion here for what that international contest was like. So here is again the results summary, and then our teams and where we were from. But I put on the poster at least that we had a Q&A, and we've got Holden here live in person. I could talk about what the coaching was like, but I'm not actually the one in the pits for the whole time with my hands in the soil the same way that Holden is. So thank you all for coming out, and we're happy to take questions.
Did you imply that there were other countries that were using soil taxonomy, not WRB? Which countries?
Ooh, I could consult my pedology class notes where we have a map of the world with what countries use what systems. I'm trying to think.
I know Mexico does.
Okay.
But besides that, I'm not sure. A couple of countries in Europe use it, but they also usually have a little twist on it that makes it not the exact same. But I don't remember which countries exactly used it, except for Mexico. I do know they use soil tax.
A lot of the countries that develop their own soil classification system will usually base it off of one of the two. So there might be kind of loosely based on soil taxonomy, but only relevant to the soils that they have in their country. Canada, for example, it's kind of a cross between soil taxonomy and WRB, only applying to the soils that they have in Canada. So it's only 10 soil orders, but the names kind of sound a little more like the WRB system, but I think they're still Canadian soil orders. That's a great question. I know for international publishing, at least, depends on the journal, but a lot of the rules, if you're going to publish a research paper about soil and you include the taxonomic name of the soil, you have to do either soil taxonomy or world reference base.
Or both.
Or both.
A lot
Yeah.
of journals like both.
That'll be me now, that I can approximately use.
You're a WRB expert.
Expert, I don't know, at least an appreciator. First step, familiarity. Ganlin.
So there were 8 judges that went from the US, but then 2 teams of 2.
2 teams of 4.
Oh, 2 teams of 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all judged individually and as the group.
I'm just gonna ask you what the weather was like when you guys were out in the field.
It was hot.
It was hot. It was supposed to be rainy in China this time of year, but we didn't get any rain. But it was mostly just hot and really humid. It was, I couldn't tell you what the actual temperature was just because it was all in Celsius. So I didn't actually know what the temperature was when we were there either, but it was hot. In the mid 30s Celsius.
Yeah, I think that got up to
That's,
the 90s
that's
on
hot.
some days. We were definitely prepared for it to be rainy. We were advised on like it's gonna be the rainy season. June they get I don't know how many feet of rain usually in this region of China. So we got these T-shirts that say Team USA Soil Judging and invested in some pretty good quality rain jackets that we were expecting to be wearing most days. But it was so hot that I think I was the only one who ended up wearing my jacket at all. But definitely warm. Some chat questions. What were your interactions like with judges from other countries? Pretty friendly.
Yeah.
Well,
First night we got there was a big party with a welcome reception. We had dinner. We all introduced each other, had a big gift exchange. So you would bring a gift from your hometown or country and then exchange with somebody from somewhere else. And we were down there talking to people from different countries all night long till like midnight or something. We were supposed to be up the next morning at like 7 to start our field practice. But yeah, we made a lot of friends. We talked to some teams more than others just because we were separated out into rotations for the practice days. So you didn't get to interact with all the teams as much, but we made a lot of friends, I think. What does this all say? What were your first experiences with soil judging like? When did you first realize you did? My first experience with soil judging, well, I kind of we have a huge club there at Virginia Tech. We got a giant field in the middle of campus that's like a couple hundred yards long, and it's filled with tables for clubs. And I was just in the like agricultural club area, and I stumbled across the soil judging club, and I was kind of like, sounds cool enough. We'll go check out a couple meetings, go to some, because we at Virginia Tech we have a meeting and a practice, so two different meetings every week, and every Sunday you go out to the field. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You get to go dig in soil with a couple hours with other people who like to do it. And so I kind of became a part of the team. I didn't compete my first year on the team. And then, so I'd only gone to regionals last year and then nationals. So just the 2 competitions. And did you realize? I didn't really realize I could be the world champion. I got 4th place at nationals. So I was already like, there's people from the US who've done better than me, but it's kind of not a luck thing. But anybody, once you get to this international competition, anybody can win on any day just based on some judging of the soil that could differ between people. But I guess I realized I could win after I won.
Holden, what was your experience like with group judging with teammates that you weren't as familiar with, hadn't been practicing all year, hadn't been to any competitions with prior?
Well, so it kind of broke out the Team USA into, it was me and the other person from Virginia Tech. on the team, and then 2 people from the University of Maryland. So I obviously already had experience judging with the other person from Virginia Tech, and we had the University of Maryland was actually in our same hotel at the national competition, so we had kind of like intermingled with them and became friends. So we had already known each other, and I knew judging with the other person from Virginia Tech. But I don't know. After we had a couple practices, we kind of just a couple practice pits. We figured out how to do it, and I don't know. It was kind of nice judging with people that you hadn't been doing with all year, because just different perspective, different way they were taught to do some different things. So I kind of liked it.
Other big difference going from, Virginia Tech has got like 12 people on the team to do group judging on one clipboard, and then same thing with Maryland. I think they got a pretty big team.
They got almost that amount.
Now you're consolidated down to just 4 people to split up the work and maybe butt heads with a little bit about deliberating on what to write. So that's also just a different perspective right there of doing the group judging.
A lot less people than I'm used to, but worked out pretty good.
So how many practice pits did you get to look at prior to the contest?
I think it was
So
about 7 or 8.
yeah, so we had one pit which was right outside of like the university campus, which was actually like a technosol in WRB, which is basically just like old building rubble. It was just like filled with cinder blocks and glass and stuff. They wouldn't even really let us touch it because there was so much glass in it. And then we had the next day we had 3 pits that were like half time. So we only had like 30 minutes at each of those 3 pits. And then the day before competition, we had 4 pits with like the full amount of time.
So were the other teams it seems like this would, as many teams as there were that you had, it would have been kind of a scheduling thing. So were you assigned to certain practice pits?
Yeah. So we all did all the same practice pits, but we were broken out into 4 groups. So like we were with like one of the Mexico teams, South Africa, New Zealand, and South Korea. And we were just rotating with that group of teams all week. And so it was the same with all the other teams. So we would go to one pit while all the other countries were at their pits, and then we would rotate around.
Jonathan, did you have a question?
Yeah, briefly. You got to see some presentations from like while you were at their institution there in Nanjing. Did you notice any like themes in the research that was being presented, or any trends that they were?
Man, all those presentations at the World Congress. So you have a ton of topics to go choose from. It's very well, it's pretty well organized and structured into the topic areas where you'll have topics of the same presentations of the same topic all in a room one after another. So we went to a lot of the pedology, like soil description, soil classification ones to see what that's like and valued like around the world. I went to some of the biochar talks because that's a little more related to my research. And I think some of my favorites at least were from, people from other countries just presenting about the issues that they have that they're running into with like soil management. The one that sticks out to me is the way that in Russia they're doing more research and like characterizing or mapping some of these like coastal permafrost soils on the north coast of Siberia, and with the examples of as these permafrost soils are starting to thaw out, like emerging methane like issues that relate to that. And then also as Arctic ice is melting, there's an increase in like oil tanker traffic along the north coast of Russia, and what happens when there's an oil spill and we don't know really anything at all about these native soil conditions on the coast because they're super inaccessible and frozen and maybe a fragile ecosystem, but they haven't really been described or inventoried. And that's nothing I'd really ever considered or thought about before until somebody from Russia is describing the soil work that they do. Tammy online question, besides the soil language differences, were the profiles generally similar to ones you would find in the US competitions? What were the most interesting, surprising thing you saw in any of the pits? It took us, I think actually we caught on pretty quick that we made the comparison that in Nanjing, we were in like the Missouri of China. And we had two students or two members of the team from Missouri as well, but based on the climate, based on the bedrock, based on the like the soil taxonomy classifications, we thought that was kind of our location comparison.
But there also was not a single soil we saw, I think, that wasn't at least somewhat impacted by humans, whether it was agriculture or just being completely moved. That was kind of different, definitely. I'd say.
Surprising things we saw, I would say, yeah, evidence of that human alteration or human disturbance, like could have been some pieces of charcoal, could have been other of these like, yeah, human artifacts pretty far down in the profile. And that kind of, if you notice those or if you don't, and then that was another big discussion of is if you see one little sliver of burnt wood, does that mean you turn this whole profile on its head because it's a transported, it's a terrace, human altered, human affected, you change all your horizons above it, or like how much evidence do you need to say this is definitely transported? So that was another big challenge. And then definitely interesting things, just the different redox features.
Yeah, redox was crazy.
Concentrations and depletions, lots of iron, lots of saturation on these landscapes, even at the relatively high positions. So shoulder, summit positions, even you could still see these wetness indicators in the soil where I don't know, maybe we're biased in the US, but you find the water at the bottom of the hill because it flows downhill. But in China, they were all pretty well saturated, no matter where their position was. And then a question from Connor, one of our team alumni this spring. Did your perspective on US soil judging or evaluation change at all after working with international soils and classification systems? For the soil judges on Team USA that are lucky enough to be going back to school and still in their soil judging career, I think they have a whole new appreciation for using the soil orders and the grade groups and the suborders and the system that we know and love here, rather than trying to figure out the reference soil groups and the qualifiers and the modifiers and all that. But I'm glad just to have the perspective, the perspective on it now, a little bit more familiarity with WRB for sure. Strengths to both of them, some weaknesses for both of them. Galen.
Yes. What does like a soil judging coach do during the competition? Like, are you mainly helping the judges before the competition starts, or are you providing any, like, are you helping them during the competition? Like, I guess, yeah, I don't know, because like with like sports, you know, like the coach is giving them like a game plan or like having them change their strategies and it's like stuff like I guess I'm not very associated with soil judging at all. So from as an outsider, I was wondering like what do you get from Paul as a coach, and Paul, what do you do as a coach?
That's a great question because my answer is I don't do very much. I have a hard time taking credit for our team's success and like and Holden's success here as a judge because I'm not in the pit judging with them. They spend the whole week judging these soil pits, and then they're subjected to the hot sun and the pouring rain sometimes. And I'm sitting inside grading at the table. And you've definitely got a good point that a lot of it is the lead up to it, the practices that we put together, what kind of situations we prepare for the judges to give them practice on, the ability to help them interpret what they're seeing at the practice pits, and then just also the priorities, like what to focus on is important for what it means to understand the soil pit or do the description. So there's a little bit of coaching input, I think, that makes a difference. But then ultimately, it's just your typical kind of chaperoning responsibilities, like making sure everyone's got sunscreen and water to drink, and I've got snacks in my backpack, and doing what I can to make the trip as smooth as possible, whether that's for the U of I and we're traveling from campus here in Moscow, or I got a bunch of students that we're hanging out with in China. So yeah, coaching makes a difference, but then at the end of the day, it happens every contest that a soil judger, maybe even someone that's new to the team, will come up to me and say, Paul, help me understand, like, what am I supposed to do when it's this really finely detailed situation, or how can I tell these two really specific things apart? And I don't have a good answer, because I haven't been doing the soil profile descriptions. Like, the students on the team become such experts after a week of practice that I kind of stay at the top level, kind of overview. I can help them with the general things, but it happens every contest that the judges themselves just get so much more advanced in their understanding of the soil than I do, even in the course of a practice. So at most, I would say it's 50-50 when people try to give me too much credit as a coach. But and then just imagine, as coach of Team USA, your team is made of the top 10 soil judges in the country, and we were reflecting with the other coaches that you're pretty lucky, unless you're Virginia Tech, when you have 2 students in the top 10, that you're lucky to have 1 student be a top 10 in the country. And then now imagine the whole team is top 10 soil judges. Like the first time we did a practice texturing at the contest, and everybody was locked in right away in the plus or minus range for the scoring. We say, all right, job's done. Yeah, you guys don't even need us. So it's a great question about the coaching perspective, and Holden's. But of course, I would look at Holden's team and say that, well, they have John Galbraith as the coach. Of course, they're gonna win every year. They've won 3 of the last 5 national contests, and you don't do that without a fantastic coach. So maybe coaching does have a little more influence than maybe we realize sometimes.
I'd say the coaching is just the biggest thing before the actual competition day. Like, especially for this competition, learning WRB, all of our coaches did a lot of work in those weeks leading up to us going, like giving us like practice sheets to do, or making Quizlets and stuff like that. That'll just help us. So they put in a lot of time. I'd say that what helped us most was the time they put in before we actually got to China. That's when the coaches helped us the most. But yeah, the actual competition day, they're miles away in the AC while
You guys are on your own.
we're just sitting out there, and
Can't give them hand signals. You're like,
but he can give us gushers, and that's what helped the most.
Okay, how long until the first soil judger NIL deal? Oh man. Soil judging scholarships, a recruitment process. We've got high school FFA competitions all the time. I'm saying maybe there's a missing opportunity here.
We were talking about this yesterday, saying I've only done soil judging for 2 years. I mean, the only rules are you just have to be an undergraduate. I could go to any school and get an undergraduate degree and join the soil judging team. So
seems like you should get at least 4 years of eligibility.
Exactly. So I have 2 more years. So anybody who wants to pay me to come be on their soil judging team can.
The portal.
Yeah, well, transfer portal would I'd be afraid of losing all our talent every year to the big schools like Virginia Tech. But, who knows? Maybe Moscow would be a attractive place to come in the soil judging transfer portal. One more from Connor Holden. Do you have plans to continue with soil judging in the future?
Not as of right now. Well, actual organized soil judging, but I do plan to work in soil description for drain fields. So that's applied soil judging to one type of thing. But as of right now, no more actual collegiate soil judging. I might go back to school eventually, and become an assistant coach or actual head coach. But for now, I'm done with the soil judging.
Going out on top.
Yep. Can't go downhill from there. Or you can't only go downhill from there. Can't go up from there.
Well said. Well, thank you all for coming. It's about 5 o'clock here. That's really all I had in mind for our program today. But Holden and I will stick around. We're happy to talk more afterwards. Thank you again for coming out.